The alarm bells rang across the bridge of the UES Defiance as thousands of alien ships appeared in space near Earth. Commander Jake Martinez stood at the main window, watching the enemy fleet emerge from what looked like tears in space itself. The ships were huge and dark, shaped like deadly insects with wings spread wide. "Sir, we're getting readings on over 3,000 enemy vessels," reported Lieutenant Ben Clark from his station. His voice shook slightly as he read the numbers. "They're all bigger than our largest battleships." Jake had been expecting this day for months. The reports from the outer colonies had been getting worse and worse. The Zephyrian collective was moving through space like a plague, destroying every human settlement they found. Now they had finally reached Earth itself. "Get me Admiral Carter on the main screen," Jake ordered. Within seconds, the face of Admiral Lisa Carter appeared, speaking from Earth Command deep underground in Colorado. "Jake, I'm seeing the same readings you are," Lisa said. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her blue eyes showed the strain of sleepless nights. "They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Every radio, television, and communication device on Earth is picking it up." The main screen switched to show an alien creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. Its skin was dark purple with silver markings, and its eyes glowed red in the dim light of its ship's bridge. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, though the voice sounded cold and mechanical. "Humans of the planet you call Earth," the alien said. "I am Supreme Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective. Your species has spread across this section of space for too long. You have built colonies on worlds that belong to superior beings. This ends now." Jake felt his hands clench into fists as he listened. The alien's tone was like someone talking to insects they were about to step on. "You have exactly 72 of your hours to surrender completely," Vextar continued. "You will destroy all military ships and weapons. You will tear down all defense systems on your worlds. You will submit to Zephyrian rule and serve us as we see fit. If you refuse, we will destroy every human in the galaxy. We have done this to 17 other species who thought they could resist us. Their worlds are now empty and silent." The message ended, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in complete silence. Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people, trained soldiers who had volunteered to defend Earth and humanity. Now they faced an enemy that outnumbered them by thousands to one. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Mary Walsh, "we're getting reports from all over the system. The alien fleet has ships positioned near Mars, Jupiter, and all the major space stations. They've completely surrounded us." Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward from where she had been standing near the science station. She was Earth's top expert on alien species and had been studying the Zephyrians for years. "Commander, I need to tell you something important about these aliens. They don't make empty threats. When they conquered the Altair system, they gave the same ultimatum. The Altarians tried to negotiate. The Zephyrians killed every living thing on 3 planets." Jake nodded grimly. "How many people are we talking about?" 40 billion Altarians died in less than a week," Elena said quietly. "The Zephyrians have weapons that can burn the atmosphere off a planet. They don't take prisoners, and they don't show mercy. To them, we're just animals living on land they want." Captain Ryan Brooks, who commanded the defense fleet's fastest ships, moved to stand beside Jake. Ryan was young for a captain, only 32, but he had already fought in 3 major battles against space pirates and alien raiders. "What are our orders, sir?" Before Jake could answer, Admiral Carter's voice came through the speakers again. "All units, stand by for a message from President Hayes. He's addressing the world in 5 minutes." Jake turned to his crew. "Put it on the main screen. Everyone needs to hear this." President Daniel Hayes appeared on screen, sitting behind his desk in the White House. He was a tall man with brown hair starting to turn gray, and he looked tired but determined. Behind him, Jake could see other government officials and military leaders. "My fellow humans," the president began, "both here on Earth and in our colonies throughout the stars. We face the darkest hour in human history. An alien empire has given us a choice between slavery and death. They expect us to bow down and surrender everything our species has built over centuries of exploration and hard work." The president paused, looking directly into the camera. I have consulted with our military leaders, our scientists, and representatives from every nation on Earth. Our answer is united and clear. We will not surrender. We will not become slaves. We choose to fight. Jake felt a surge of pride mixed with fear. Fighting was the right choice, but the odds were terrible. President Hayes continued. The Zephyrians have destroyed other civilizations, but they have never faced humanity. We are the species that survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have ended other races. We reached for the stars when many said it was impossible. We built homes on dead worlds and brought them to life. We will not let alien invaders take away our future. The camera pulled back to show more of the room. General Kevin Stone, the commander of all Earth's military forces, stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his face, from battles fought years ago. All military units are hereby authorized to engage the enemy with full force. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We fight for our homes, our families, and our survival as a species. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge quiet again. Jake looked out at the alien fleet hanging in space like a dark cloud. There, ships were massive and probably armed with weapons Earth had never seen before. But his crew was ready to fight. Lieutenant Clark, send a message to the alien fleet, Jake ordered. Tell them that Earth's answer is no. We will not surrender and we will not serve them. If they want our worlds, they can try to take them. Ben Clark's fingers moved quickly over his controls. Message sent, sir. Within minutes, Supreme Chancellor Vextar appeared on screen again. This time his red eyes seemed to glow brighter and his voice carried more anger. Foolish humans, you choose death over the honor of serving a superior race. Very well. In 72 hours we will begin the destruction of your species. Your ships will burn, your cities will fall, and your people will die screaming. This is the fate of all who oppose the Zephyrian collective. The alien's image disappeared, replaced by a view of the enemy fleet. Jake could see that more ships were arriving every hour, emerging from hyperspace like dark meteors. The Zephyrians were bringing their full force to bear against humanity. Sir, Mary Walsh called out, we're receiving orders from Fleet Command. All ships are to take defensive positions around Earth and the inner planets. We're going to make them fight for every inch of space. Jake nodded. Ryan, get your ships ready for combat. Elena, I need you to tell me everything you know about Zephyrian tactics and weaknesses. Ben, start sending our tactical data to all other human ships. If we're going to fight, we need to work together. As his crew rushed to carry out their orders, Jake took one last look at Earth hanging in space below them. It was a blue and green jewel, home to 8 billion humans who were counting on their military to protect them. The odds were against them, but Jake had never known humans to give up when their survival was at stake. The countdown to war had begun. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Marcus Webb ran down a metal corridor that had been carved out of solid rock 50 years ago. The underground facility was so secret that most government officials didn't even know it existed. Red warning. Lights flashed along the walls as Marcus hurried toward the main laboratory. Dr. Webb, we need you in Lab 7 immediately, came a voice over the intercom system. It was his assistant, Dr. Paula Mitchell, and she sounded worried. Marcus pushed through the heavy doors into a room filled with machines that hummed with power. In the center of the room stood something that looked like a giant metal egg, 20 feet tall and covered in blinking lights. This was the heart of Project Prometheus, humanity's most closely guarded secret. Paula, what's the status? Marcus asked as he approached the machine. Paula looked up from her computer screen. She was a young woman with red hair and green eyes that showed both excitement and fear. The alien fleet is holding position just like we expected. They think they have all the time in the world to wait for our surrender. Marcus smiled grimly. They have no idea what we've been building down. Here, do they? None at all, Paula replied. Our satellites show they're running standard scans of Earth's surface. They can see our military bases, our cities, our ships in orbit. But they can't detect what's hidden underground or what we've really been doing. For the past 50 years, Marcus walked over to a wall covered with photographs and documents. The pictures showed the first alien visitors to Earth, peaceful traders called Altarians who had arrived in 2075. Most people remembered them as friendly beings, who had shared some basic technology before disappearing back into space. What most people didn't know was that they had left behind much more than anyone realized. When the Altarians visited us, Marcus said, touching one of the old photographs, they thought they were just trading with primitive humans. They gave us some simple tools and energy cells, thinking we could barely understand them. They never imagined that human scientists would take apart everything they left behind and figure out how it all worked. Paula nodded. And then we made it better? Much better, Marcus agreed. We didn't just copy their technology. We improved it, changed it, made it into something the Altarians never dreamed of. Meanwhile, on the surface, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster stood in a hidden room beneath the streets of New York City. Around her, dozens of people worked at computer screens and communication devices. These weren't regular soldiers or government workers. They were ordinary citizens who had volunteered to be part of Earth's secret defense network. Team leaders report in, Amy said into her headset. She was a short woman with black hair and dark eyes, but her voice carried the authority of someone who had spent 20 years in the military. Boston team ready, came a voice through her earpiece. Chicago team standing by, said another. Los Angeles team prepared for action, reported a third. Amy looked at a map on the wall that showed every major city on Earth. Each city had a red dot marking a hidden facility like this one. The Zephyrians thought Earth's defenses were limited to the military bases they could see from space. They had no idea that every major population center had been turned into a fortress. Listen carefully, everyone, Amy said to the people in the room. For 50 years we've been preparing for this day. Every family has emergency supplies. Every neighborhood has hidden weapons caches. Every citizen knows their role in the defense plan. The aliens think humans will panic and surrender when they see superior force. They're about to learn how wrong they are. A young man named Peter Sullivan raised his hand. He was barely 20 years old and worked as a computer programmer, but he had volunteered for the Resistance Network. Colonel Foster, what if the aliens try to land troops in the cities? Amy smiled. Peter, that's exactly what we want them to try. Every building in every city has been modified over the past decades. What looks like a normal apartment building or office tower can become a weapon platform in minutes. The aliens will find that conquering Earth means fighting 8 billion humans who refuse to give up. Far from Earth, Captain Nicole Turner stood on the bridge of the Mars defense platform, watching her instruments carefully. Mars had been humanity's first major colony, and most people thought it was just a mining operation and research station. The truth was very different. Captain, we're picking up some interesting readings from the outer system, reported her sensor operator, a man named Tony Garcia. It looks like the aliens missed something important when they scanned our solar system. Nicole walked over to look at Tony's screen. Show me what you found. Tony pointed to a series of blips on his display. These look like asteroids to the alien scanners, but we know better. Remember all those mining expeditions we sent to the asteroid belt over the past 30 years? Nicole grinned. We weren't just mining rocks, were we? Not even close, Tony replied. We hollowed out hundreds of asteroids and turned them into hidden weapons platforms. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a battleship, and they're all controlled by artificial intelligence systems the aliens can't detect. Nicole looked out at the stars, knowing that scattered throughout the solar system were weapons that could change the course of the coming battle. Tony, how many platforms do we have total? Over 2,000, Captain. And that's not counting the ones we built inside the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Back on Earth, in the underground command center, General Kevin Stone studied reports coming in from around the world. He was an old soldier who had fought in the last war between Earth nations, back before humanity had united to explore space. Now he faced a war unlike anything in human history. Sir, called out Major Linda Hayes from her communication station, all defense networks are reporting ready status. The hidden facilities are powered up, the resistance cells are in position, and our secret weapons are online. Kevin nodded. What about our real space fleet? Major Hayes checked her screen. The ships the aliens can see are taking defensive positions, just like they expect. But our hidden fleet is moving into position now. The aliens think we only have About 300 ships. They don't know about the 1,000 ships we built in secret facilities on the far side of the moon. Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered the command center, carrying a thick folder of papers. She had spent the past 2 days reviewing everything Earth knew about Zephyrian military tactics. General Stone, I have the analysis you requested. What did you find, Doctor? Elena opened her folder and pulled out several photographs of destroyed, alien worlds. The Zephyrians always follow the same pattern when they conquer a species. First, they appear with overwhelming force and demand surrender. Most species give up at this point because the odds look hopeless. Second, if the species refuses to surrender, they attack with about half their fleet, expecting quick victory. Third, they only use their full force if the first attack fails. General Stone studied the photographs. What's their weakness? They're overconfident, Elena replied. They've never fought a species that was prepared for them. They expect their enemies to panic and make mistakes. They also rely heavily on psychological warfare, trying to terrify their opponents into giving up. And they have no idea what they're really facing, Kevin said with a slight smile. Exactly. They think they're attacking a primitive species with limited technology and no real military experience. They don't know that humans have been preparing for this war since we first learned that hostile aliens existed. They don't know about our hidden weapons, our secret technologies, or our real military strength. In space near Earth, Commander Jake Martinez received a coded message on his personal communicator. The message was short and simple. Prometheus is ready. Phase 1 begins in 6 hours. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew members who were preparing for battle. None of them knew about the secret projects and hidden weapons that would soon change everything. They thought they were facing impossible odds with only courage and determination to help them. Jake walked over to the main viewing screen and looked out at the Zephyrian fleet. The alien ships hung in space like dark clouds, confident and threatening. Their commanders probably thought the battle was already won. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their visible military force, but their ability to prepare, adapt, and surprise their enemies. Communications, send a message to the alien fleet, Jake ordered. What should it say, sir? Asked Lieutenant Ben Clark. Jake smiled. Tell them we're still waiting for their attack. Tell them that Earth is ready for whatever they can bring. The message was sent. Jake knew that somewhere deep underground, Dr. Marcus Webb was making final preparations for weapons that would shock the galaxy. Somewhere in hidden facilities around the world, ordinary citizens were getting ready to fight, with extraordinary courage, and somewhere in the darkness of space, secret human fleets were moving into position for the battle that would determine the future of humanity. The Zephyrians thought they knew what they were facing. They were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. The attack began exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum, just as Supreme Chancellor Vextar had promised. Thousands of Zephyrian ships moved forward like a dark wave, their weapons charging with deadly energy. From his flagship, Vextar watched the human fleet take defensive positions around Earth, and he felt satisfied with what he saw. Pathetic, Vextar said to his second-in-command, General Kexrim. Look how few ships they have. 300 vessels against our 3,000. This will be over before the day ends. General Kexrim, a smaller Zephyrian with yellow markings on his purple skin, nodded in agreement. Supreme Chancellor, our intelligence reports were correct. The humans have primitive weapons and weak shields. Their largest ships are half the size of our smallest destroyers. Vextar watched the tactical display showing both fleets. The human ships looked tiny compared to the massive Zephyrian warships. Begin the attack. Use only the first wave. Save our main battle fleet for cleanup. Operations. 1,000 Zephyrian ships broke away from the main fleet and charged toward the human defensive line. Their plasma cannons began firing long streams of green energy that lit up space like deadly lightning. The first shots hit human ships and exploded in bright flashes. Commander Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as enemy fire rained down around his ship. All ships, return fire, he ordered. Make them think we're giving everything we have. The human fleet opened fire with their visible weapons, sending missiles and laser beams toward the attacking aliens. Several Zephyrian ships were hit and damaged, but many more kept coming. To anyone watching, it looked like the humans were fighting bravely but losing badly. Captain Ryan Brooks commanded the fast attack ships on the front line. His ship, the UES Lightning, shook as alien plasma bolts exploded nearby. "Jake, we're taking heavy damage out here," he reported over the radio. "How long do we have to keep this up?" "Just a little longer, Ryan," Jake replied. He looked at his watch and smiled. Admiral Carter should be giving the signal any moment now. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter sat deep underground in the command center, watching the battle on dozens of screens. Around her, military officers tracked every ship and every shot fired. The alien attack was going exactly as they had planned. "Ma'am, the enemy has committed their first wave as expected," reported Major Linda Hayes. "They're pushing our visible fleet back toward Earth orbit." Lisa nodded. "Perfect. They think they're winning. Send the signal to all hidden units. Phase 1 begins now." Throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of objects that looked like ordinary space rocks suddenly came to life. Hidden doors opened to reveal massive weapons that had been waiting in silence for 50 years. These weren't the primitive missiles and lasers the Zephyrians expected. These were weapons built with alien technology that humans had improved and made deadly. Captain Nicole Turner watched from the Mars platform as the hidden asteroid weapons activated. "Tony, are you seeing this on sensors?" Tony Garcia grinned as he watched his instruments. "Captain, every hidden platform in the belt is powering up. The aliens have no idea what's about to hit them." The first surprise came from behind the Zephyrian attack fleet. What they thought was an empty asteroid suddenly fired a beam of pure energy that cut through 3 alien ships like they were made of paper. The beam was so powerful it melted the alien armor and left nothing but glowing metal. Floating in space, what was that? General Kexrim shouted as alarms began ringing on the Zephyrian flagship. Before anyone could answer, dozens more energy beams lanced out from asteroids throughout the belt. Each beam found its target with perfect accuracy, striking Zephyrian ships that had thought their rear was completely safe. Supreme Chancellor Vextar stared at his tactical display in shock. Red warning symbols were appearing all around his fleet as hidden weapons revealed themselves. "How is this possible?" "Our scouts found nothing but rocks and ice in that asteroid belt. Sir, we're detecting over 200 hidden weapon platforms," reported the ship's tactical officer. "They were completely invisible until they opened fire. But the surprises were just beginning. On Earth's surface, what looked like ordinary mountains and hills began to change. Hidden panels slid away to reveal enormous railguns that had been built inside the landscape itself. These weapons were bigger than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen, designed to fire projectiles at incredible speeds. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster stood in the underground control center beneath New York City, watching as the hidden surface weapons came online. "All surface batteries, you are clear to engage targets in high orbit." The railguns fired with thunderous roars that shook the ground for miles around. But instead of explosive shells, they fired solid metal projectiles, moving at nearly the speed of light. When these projectiles hit Zephyrian ships, they didn't explode. They simply punched holes completely through the alien vessels, leaving perfectly round tunnels from one side to the other. General Kevin Stone watched the battle from Earth Command as the tide began to turn. "How are the aliens reacting to our surprises?" Major Hayes checked her communications board. "Sir, we're intercepting Zephyrian radio traffic. Their commanders are confused and angry. They're demanding to know how we hid so many weapons from their scouts." Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her analysis station. "General, this is going exactly as I predicted. The Zephyrians have never faced an enemy that prepared for them in advance. They're used to fighting species that panic when they see superior numbers." Back in space, the Zephyrian attack was falling apart. Ships that had been confidently advancing toward Earth were now being hit from all directions by weapons they couldn't see coming. The asteroid belt had become a deadly maze of hidden gun platforms, and Earth's surface was bristling with weapons that could reach into orbit. Commander Jake Martinez saw his chance and took it. "All ships, stop retreating. Time for Phase 2 of our counterattack." The human fleet, which had been falling back and taking damage, suddenly stopped running and turned to fight. But now their ships were doing things that should have been impossible. Damaged vessels began repairing themselves in the middle of battle. Energy shields that had looked weak suddenly became much stronger, and new weapons appeared on human ships that the Zephyrians had never seen before. Captain Ryan Brooks led his squadron in a charge toward the confused alien fleet. Lightning to all ships, engage at will. Show them what human engineering can really do. The UES Lightning fired a new type of weapon that sent waves of energy racing toward the alien ships. When the waves hit Zephyrian vessels, their own weapons stopped working and their shields failed. The aliens found themselves defenseless against follow-up attacks from conventional human weapons. Dr. Marcus Webb, still deep underground in Colorado, monitored the battle through satellite feeds. Project Prometheus was working perfectly. The weapons his team had built using improved alien technology were devastating the enemy fleet. "Paula, how are our energy projectors performing?" he asked his assistant. Dr. Paula Mitchell checked her readings. "Better than we hoped, Marcus. We're not just damaging their ships, we're disrupting their technology at the quantum level. Their own systems are turning against them." Supreme Chancellor Vextar realized that his easy victory had become a disaster. "All ships fall back to defensive positions. We need time to understand these new human weapons." But retreating was easier said than done. The Zephyrian ships found themselves caught in a crossfire between Earth's surface weapons, the hidden asteroid platforms, and the human fleet that was no longer running away. Everywhere they turned, more surprises waited for them. "Sir, we've lost over 400 ships," General Kexrim reported with fear in his voice. "The humans have weapons we've never encountered before. Our intelligence was completely wrong about their capabilities." Vexitar's red eyes blazed with anger and confusion. "Impossible. We studied this species for years. They should have primitive technology and no real military experience." Captain Nicole Turner, watching from Mars, saw the Zephyrian retreat and smiled. "Tony, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the asteroid platforms have exceeded all performance expectations. The enemy is pulling back." The first phase of the battle was over and humanity had won. But Jake Martinez knew this was only the beginning. The aliens had attacked with just 1/3 of their fleet and had been shocked by human resistance. Now they would be angry, careful, and much more dangerous. "All ships maintain defensive positions but don't pursue," Jake ordered. "They'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." In the Zephyrian command ship, Vextar stared at the tactical display showing his damaged and retreating fleet. For the first time in his military career, he had been outfought by what he thought was a primitive species. "Get me a full analysis of human weapons and capabilities," he snarled, "and bring up the main battle fleet. If the humans want to fight, we'll show them the full power of the Zephyrian collective." Supreme Chancellor Vextar stood in his command chamber, surrounded by broken displays and emergency lights. The first attack had been a complete disaster, and his military officers were scrambling to understand what had gone wrong. For 300 years, the Zephyrian collective had conquered species after species without ever losing a major battle. "General Kexrim, explain to me how a primitive species destroyed 400 of our ships," Vextar demanded, his red eyes glowing with anger. General Kexrim looked nervous as he consulted his datapad. "Supreme Chancellor, our intelligence was completely wrong. The humans have technology that shouldn't exist. Their weapons can disrupt our systems at levels we don't understand." Vextar slammed his clawed hand on the metal table. "Impossible. We observed this species for years. They barely had space travel when we first detected them. How could they develop such advanced weapons in so short a time?" Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Marcus Webb was making final preparations for the next phase of humanity's defense. Deep in the underground laboratories of Project Prometheus, he worked with equipment that looked more like alien technology than anything built by human hands. "Paula, bring the quantum disruptor online," Marcus called to his assistant. "If the aliens are going to bring their full fleet, we need to show them what we've really been building down here." Dr. Paula Mitchell activated a machine that hummed with power unlike anything else on Earth. "Marcus, are you sure this will work? We've only tested it on captured alien technology, never on a live enemy fleet." Marcus looked at the readings on his screen. The quantum disruptor was humanity's greatest scientific achievement, built using principles learned from 50 years of studying alien technology. It has to work, Paula. This device can rewrite the basic programming of any technology based on quantum energy matrices. Since most alien civilizations use the same basic principles, we should be able to affect their entire fleet at once. Above ground, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster coordinated with resistance cells around the world as reports came in of Zephyrian ground forces attempting to land on Earth. The aliens had sent small teams to try to establish bases in major cities, thinking that humans would panic when they saw alien soldiers walking among them. "Colonel Foster, this is Boston team," came a voice through her radio. "The aliens just landed 50 soldiers in the park downtown. They're demanding that everyone surrender." Amy smiled as she looked at the tactical map, showing similar reports from cities around the world. "Boston team, execute Plan 7. Show our visitors what human hospitality really means." In Boston, the Zephyrian soldiers had expected to find terrified humans running in panic. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by ordinary citizens who seemed strangely calm. What the aliens didn't know was that every person they could see was a trained member of the resistance network. The alien commander, a tall Zephyrian with silver markings, spoke into a translation device. "Humans of this city, your military has been defeated. Surrender now and you will be allowed to live as our servants." An elderly man named Frank Wilson stepped forward. He looked like a normal grandfather, but he had actually been a soldier for 30 years before retiring to work as a teacher. "Sorry, friend, but we're not interested in your offer." The alien commander raised his weapon, expecting the humans to scatter in fear. Instead, Frank and dozens of other citizens pulled out advanced weapons that had been hidden under their clothes. The aliens found themselves facing an entire city of people who were ready to fight. "How do these primitives have such weapons?" the alien commander demanded, but he never got an answer. The battle for Boston lasted only minutes, and when it was over, no Zephyrian soldiers were left standing. Similar scenes played out in every city where the aliens tried to land. The Zephyrians had expected to face scared civilians. Instead, they found that every human adult was a potential soldier, trained and equipped with weapons that could match their own. In space, Captain Nicole Turner watched from the Mars platform as something amazing happened. New human ships were appearing from behind the moon, ships that the aliens had never detected. These weren't the small patrol vessels the Zephyrians had seen before. These were massive battleships, each one as large as the biggest Zephyrian warships. "Tony, how many ships are coming from the lunar shipyards?" Nicole asked. Tony Garcia checked his sensors and whistled in amazement. "Captain, I'm counting over 1,000 ships. They've been building a whole fleet in secret on the far side of the moon." The hidden fleet moved into position around Earth with practiced precision. These ships looked different from the vessels the aliens had already fought. Their hulls were covered in armor that seemed to shift and change color, and their weapons were unlike anything in known space. Commander Jake Martinez received a communication from the fleet commander, Admiral Robert Kane. "Jake, this is Admiral Kane aboard the UES Titan. We're taking command of the space battle now. Move your ships to support positions." Jake looked at his tactical display and felt hope rising in his chest. The UES Titan was massive, bigger than anything the Zephyrians had in their fleet. "Admiral Kane, it's good to see you. We've been holding the line, but the aliens are preparing for a major attack." "Let them come," Admiral Kane replied. "We've been waiting 50 years for this fight." Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Supreme Chancellor Vexitar received reports that made his blood run cold. "What do you mean there are more human ships? Where did they come from?" "Sir, they appeared from behind the planet's moon," reported his tactical officer. "Our scouts never detected any major shipbuilding facilities there." Vexitar studied the new readings with growing alarm. The human fleet had just tripled in size, and these new ships were giving off energy readings that matched or exceeded his own capital ships. How is this possible? Our intelligence said the humans had only basic space travel capabilities. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring alien communications from Earth Command, turned to General Kevin Stone with important information. "General, We're intercepting Zephyrian radio traffic. Their commanders are starting to panic. They're realizing that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. General Stone looked at the tactical displays showing the true size of Earth's defenses. Elena, what do you think they'll do now? They have two choices, Elena replied. They can retreat and admit defeat, or they can commit their entire fleet to try to overwhelm us with pure numbers. Based on their psychology, they'll choose to attack. They can't accept that a species they considered primitive has outmaneuvered them. General Stone nodded. Then we need to be ready for everything they can throw at us. In the underground laboratories, Dr. Marcus Webb received authorization for the final phase of Project Prometheus. Paula, we have clearance from the President himself. Activate the Global Quantum Disruption Network. Paula's fingers moved across the control panel, bringing online systems that had been hidden beneath every major city on Earth. Marcus, all nodes are responding. We're ready to target the entire Zephyrian fleet simultaneously. The Quantum Disruptor Network was humanity's ultimate weapon, a system that could reach across space itself and interfere with alien technology at the most basic level. It had taken 50 years to build and had never been tested on this scale. Supreme Chancellor Vexitar made his decision. Bring up the entire collective fleet, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. If these humans want to fight, we'll crush them with our full military might. General Kexrim looked worried. Sir, that's over 10,000 ships. Are you sure we need our entire force against one primitive planet? Vextar's eyes blazed with rage and frustration. These humans have made us look like fools. They've hidden weapons, ships, and technology that our best scouts never detected. I don't know how they did it, but I'm going to make sure they never do it again. As the massive Zephyrian fleet began moving toward Earth, Captain Ryan Brooks led a scouting mission to observe their approach. What he saw made him radio back to Earth Command immediately. Command, this is Captain Brooks. You need to see this. The aliens are bringing everything they have. I count over 10,000 ships, including super dreadnoughts that are bigger than anything we've ever seen. Admiral Lisa Carter received the report and felt her heart race. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since first learning that hostile aliens existed. All units, this is Admiral Carter. The enemy is committing their full force. Execute final protocol. This is what we've been training for. Across the solar system, hidden weapons that had waited decades for this moment came online. Space stations that looked abandoned suddenly revealed themselves to be massive fortresses. Asteroid bases that had been disguised as mining operations. Activated weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets. Commander Jake Martinez looked out at the approaching alien armada and felt a mixture of fear and determination. The largest space battle in human history was about to begin, and the survival of his species hung in the balance. All ships, this is Commander Martinez, he broadcast to the human fleet. In a few hours, we'll either save humanity or die trying. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember who we are. We're humans, and we don't know how to give up. The greatest test of humanity's hidden strength was about to begin. The final battle began when over 10,000 Zephyrian ships moved toward Earth like a dark storm cloud. Supreme Chancellor Vexitar had committed every vessel in his empire to destroy humanity once and for all. From his flagship, he watched the human fleet take defensive positions and felt confident that sheer numbers would win the day. General Kexrim, begin the attack, Vextar ordered. Use every weapon we have. I want to see Earth burning within the hour. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with weapons that could melt planets. Streams of plasma energy and particle beams filled space with deadly light. The alien ships advanced in perfect formation, their commanders certain that no force in the galaxy could stand against such overwhelming power. But deep beneath Colorado, Dr. Marcus Webb was ready with humanity's final surprise. Paula, activate the Quantum Disruptor Network. Target every Zephyrian ship in the system. Dr. Paula Mitchell's hands moved across the control panel, sending signals to hidden transmitters around the world. Marcus, all nodes are active. We're reaching out to touch every alien ship with quantum energy. The effect was invisible at first, but devastating. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, ships began experiencing system failures that made no sense. Weapons that had worked perfectly for centuries suddenly stopped firing. Navigation systems started giving wrong information. Shield generators began shutting down for no reason. "What's happening to our ships?" General Kexrim demanded as alarms rang throughout the flagship. Before anyone could answer, the quantum disruption reached the core systems of the Zephyrian vessels. The aliens had built their technology using quantum energy matrices, the same basic principles that powered most advanced civilizations. What they didn't know was that humans had learned to rewrite those quantum patterns. Commander Jake Martinez watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as enemy ships began losing power. "All human ships, advance on the disabled vessels. This is our chance." The human fleet moved forward with weapons that the Zephyrians had never seen before. These weren't just improved alien designs. They were completely new technologies that humans had developed by combining alien science with their own creativity and engineering skills. Captain Ryan Brooks led his squadron against a group of Zephyrian battleships that were drifting helplessly in space. "Lightning to all ships, target their command centers. Let's end this quickly." The UES Lightning fired a beam of pure energy that passed right through the alien ship's armor like it wasn't even there. The beam didn't explode or burn. Instead, it rewrote the quantum structure of everything it touched, turning the alien ship's own hull into something that couldn't exist in normal space. Admiral Robert Kane commanded the secret fleet from the massive UES Titan. His ship surrounded the largest Zephyrian vessels and began using weapons that seemed impossible. Some ships fired beams that made enemy vessels simply disappear. Others launched devices that turned alien armor into harmless gas. "Admiral Kane to all ships," he broadcast. "The quantum disruptors have done their job. The enemy fleet is defenseless. Begin capture operations for any aliens who surrender." Captain Nicole Turner watched from Mars as the tide of battle turned completely. "Tony, are you getting readings on the alien fleet?" Tony Garcia stared at his instruments in amazement. "Captain, over half their ships are dead in space. The rest are trying to retreat, but their navigation systems aren't working properly. They're flying in circles." On Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster coordinated the cleanup of alien ground forces that had been trapped on the planet when their ships lost power. The Zephyrian soldiers found themselves stranded on a world where every human was ready to fight them. "All resistance teams report status," Amy said into her radio. "New York team here," came a reply. "We've captured 50 alien soldiers. They surrendered when they realized their weapons stopped working." "London team reporting," said another voice. "The aliens here are asking for protection. They seem to think we're going to torture them." Amy smiled. "Tell them that humans don't torture prisoners. We're not like them." In the underground command center, General Kevin Stone watched the battle end with satisfaction. "Major Hayes, get me a count of enemy casualties and surrenders." Major Linda Hayes checked her reports. "Sir, we've destroyed about 2,000 alien ships. Another 4,000 have surrendered or been captured. The rest are trying to flee the system, but most of them are lost because their navigation systems have been scrambled." Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her analysis station. "General, we're receiving a communication from the Zephyrian flagship. Supreme Chancellor Vextar wants to talk." The main screen showed Vextar standing in what looked like a damaged command chamber. His red eyes no longer blazed with confidence. Instead, he looked confused and defeated. "Humans of Earth, I request permission to speak with your leaders." President Daniel Hayes appeared on screen from the White House. Behind him stood military officers and scientists who had planned humanity's defense. "I'm President Hayes. What do you want, Vextar?" The alien leader seemed to struggle with words. "How did you do this? How did a primitive species defeat the greatest military force in the galaxy?" President Hayes looked at the alien with steady eyes. "We're not primitive, Vextar. We never were. You made the mistake of judging us by your own standards instead of trying to understand who we really are." Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward to explain. "For 50 years, we've been studying alien technology and making it better. While you were conquering other species, we were learning from every piece of equipment you left behind. We took your science and improved it in ways you never imagined." Vextar's voice showed his confusion. "But our intelligence report said you had basic technology and no military experience." General Kevin Stone answered that question. We let you think that. We hid our real capabilities and made you overconfident. You expected us to panic and surrender like the other species you destroyed. Instead, you found a civilization that had been preparing for war with you for decades. Admiral Lisa Carter appeared on another screen. Vextar, your empire made a fundamental mistake. You assumed that because we appeared peaceful, we were weak. You forgot that the most dangerous enemies are the ones who choose when and how to fight. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. Supreme Chancellor, I've studied your military history. You've conquered 17 species in the past century. Every one of them tried to fight you using their traditional weapons and tactics. None of them prepared specifically for war against the Zephyrian Collective. But we did, President Hayes continued. We studied your tactics, your technology, your psychology. We built weapons designed specifically to defeat your ships. We trained our people to resist your psychological warfare. We prepared for this war in ways you never expected. Vextar looked around his damaged command chamber. What happens now? Will you destroy the rest of my fleet? Commander Jake Martinez, still on the bridge of the Defiance, answered that question. We don't want to destroy anyone, Vextar. We want you to leave our space and never come back. Take your surviving ships and return to your own territory. But understand this, President Hayes added, his voice becoming serious. If you or any other hostile species threatens humanity again, you'll face the same fate. We've proven that. We can defend ourselves. Don't make us prove that we can also attack. Dr. Marcus Webb activated a communication device that sent a signal throughout the galaxy. We're broadcasting this entire conversation to every inhabited system within 1,000 light years. Every alien civilization will know what happened here today. The message was simple but powerful. Humanity had faced extinction and not only survived, but won a complete victory. Any species that threatened human survival would discover that they had chosen the wrong enemy. Supreme Chancellor Vextar realized that his empire's expansion had ended forever. We will leave your space and never return. But I must ask, what will you do with the technology you've developed? Will you use it to conquer others as we did? President Hayes shook his head. We fight only to defend ourselves and our friends. We don't conquer other species. We help them. Captain Nicole Turner, watching from Mars, saw the Zephyrian fleet begin its retreat. The alien ships that could still fly were limping away from Earth, many of them guided by human rescue vessels, because their own navigation systems were still disabled. Tony, send a message to Earth Command, Nicole said. Tell them the solar system is clear of hostile forces. As the last Zephyrian ships disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. Paula Mitchell looked at her instruments in the underground laboratory. Marcus, the quantum disruptor network is shutting down automatically. All systems are returning to normal. Marcus Webb sat down heavily in his chair, exhausted from the tension of the battle. Paula, we did it. We actually did it. Throughout human space, people celebrated the greatest victory in their species' history. But the celebration was mixed, with determination. Earth's last message to the galaxy had been delivered. You have sealed your fate. It was not a threat of conquest, but a promise of protection. Humanity had announced to the galaxy that they were no longer a young species, to be pushed around. They were a civilization capable of defending themselves and their allies with whatever force was necessary.